Okay, today I'm going to be building a rear bumper from an 80 series Landcruiser. I ended up going with Overkill Racing's off-road bumper. They're a company local to Salt Lake City. I haven't heard of them before, but they threw up a post in one of the Facebook groups and they were local and it was cheaper than a lot of the other offerings. So I'll be building that bumper. It's just a flat steel kit, DIY, you weld it together yourself. So I'll get that built. First thing I've got to do is pull off this old rear bumper. Just to get it off, I believe there's just a few bolts. Of course, I've got my hitch. This crossmember doesn't need to come out, but I'm gonna pull it out anyways. So we'll get this old bumper off and then we'll start putting in that new one. Okay, so now that this hitch is off, I am gonna go along and take off this rear side tire support. There's 3 bolts on each side holding this up. There's one here, there's one in the middle, maybe you can see it there, and then there's one more over on this side. And then, of course, it repeats over there. Okay, so here's the bolts right there, there, and there, and then on this side, there, there, and there. Okay, so now that tire carrier support is out, and so now just the bumper covers need to come off so we can get to this bumper. And I believe essentially these are just covers, so just the little bolts there, screws there, there's a few bolts there, and then again and around. And then once we get that off, these little wing supports come off there and there, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it because I'm not positive how to get those off yet. Okay, so to get this off, we have these two bolts right here. They need to come off or be broken off. And then there's one nut right there. Right in the center of the screen. It goes through that slot. That one needs to be pulled off as well. Once that's off, that will allow this to move so it can be twisted around those bushings. Okay, so when these bolts are off, they just come off. Unlike these that are still stuck in there. So, if the bolts come off, that thing essentially just comes off. You still have to do that one, but that's about it. Now this needs to come off. I guess it doesn't have to, but we'll pull it off. And then we can get just a better look about what we need to cut off to get that new bumper on there. Now that we have the back off, we need to get this cross member out. And I'm going to start by cutting out these welds here, here, and then we got a big weld there. And then I'll probably use the Sawzall to cut out that. I'll probably use the grinder to cut that. But anyways, I'll just get to that. Okay, so that's out. And that probably wasn't quite as hard as I made it look. A Sawzall right here and a Sawzall down there. And even on the back side, a Sawzall works far better than a grinder because you can actually get the Sawzall up in there. So right here,
right there on that back support, Sawzall. Up here, grinder spine, I'm sure Sawzall would work just as good though. So now I'll mark this up and I'll cut this, and it needs to be cut about right here. So we're gonna trim off this first bolt, leave that second bolt closest to the body mount. It'll be cut about right there-ish. So we've got the back bumper marked out. What I did is I measured a 1/2 inch from this bolt right here. It's covered up anymore, to get me to this line here. And then I just used a square to make sure that was all squared up. And I put some tape around it just so it's easier to cut. And so I'll probably score it with my grinder, and I'll finish it off with a Sawzall. And what you're wanting to do is to keep that second bolt, but get rid of this first one. So we're gonna keep the bolt closest to the body mount. Or the nut, whatever you feel like calling it. All right, so now those are trimmed off. And then I went ahead and smoothed out the corners as well. We've got the same on that other side. And at this point, I believe we start welding up the bumper. So it'll be fun. All right, so my welder has decided to go on the fritz, so I figured I'd stop this video here because this is pretty common for any high clearance bumper for these 80 series. So it's gonna get chopped. This is what it's gonna look like from the side. And then just kind of an overview, you got to remove this bumper, and then you're going to have your cross member. It's going to come out to about, oh, probably here or so. And the way I did it was I cut the welds right here, and then I cut the welds on top and beneath so I could just pull that cross member off as a part. I was left with my frame rail that came out to here, and then I cut it there. I'm sure there's a more streamlined process to do that. But at least the way I did it, everything was always easy to get to. It took a little bit longer, but I don't know. I feel like it could have been worth it. But you're left with this. Typically when you're doing this, the thing that's important is that you leave this bolt, that nut, and then these nuts, or I think this nut back here. I think that's the nut. Because you're gonna want both of these to mount your aftermarket high clearance bumper to. And then there might be a couple other ones. The 4x4 labs will have you cut this at an angle, but for the most part, that's all you're doing. You're just cutting this frame back so you can fit a bumper on that doesn't extend so far out. So there's that. If you like this video, go watch some of my other ones. I've got some fun ones. Or just subscribe, like it, comment on it. Anything gets me boosted up a little bit more just so I can try and make this something that I can do more permanently. And then I'll catch you when I start working on this overkill off-road bumper. Thanks for watching.